executive coach. I teach communication skills as well as really helping people let go of the lies and meet themselves. And so my wife and I together, we have founded Spiritual Alignment, which used to be yoga centers, and now it is something more. But let me get into my story. So, being on this stage does not make me worthy. The amount of money that I have in a bank account, the amount of followers that I have on social media, or the fact that we own 320 acres of retreat space in Tahoe National Forest does not make me worthy. What makes me worthy is one thing: that I am. And the thing to remember is that you are the master of your self-worth. And how many of you today feel that and see that for yourself? Great, I appreciate that. And if you don't beat yourself up. Be easy on yourself. Because we are given a framework that really doesn't help us and serve us in so many ways. From the minute that we're born, we are given this idea that in order for us to see ourselves as worthy, we have to measure ourselves in some way or form. So there's metrics. And depending on those metrics, whether we rank on this side or that side, we are worthy or not. I was locked up at one point in my life. And you might be thinking, well, Mitesh, when did you ever go to prison? Well, as a 4-year-old locked up in a shed, it may very well have been a prison. So let me rewind a little bit, backtrack a little bit. And I was born in India, but my family immigrated here when I was at a very young age. So we moved in to beautiful Long Island, New York, close to New York City. And on a beautiful sunny day, my cousin and I, we moved in with my aunt, and so my cousin and I, we went to our driveway with the edge of our driveway. We collected all the rocks that we could find, and we decided to play a game. Every time our car would come down from the street, we'd take a rock and aim at the hubcaps and start flicking them. Boom, boom, boom. And then I remember, after about 20 minutes, this red sports car comes down. And I pick up a flat rock, about a key size or so, about the size of a house key. And so I take this rock, and I fling it. And if you know anything about rocks, the flatter they are, the more air they catch. And so this rock, instead of going to where I wanted it to go, it started going up and up and up, and at some point I'm thinking, uh-oh. And a few seconds later, this car comes screeching to a halt. And out steps what looked like to me a resemblance of Tom Selleck. This dude steps out, and the minute he starts stepping out, my cousin and I look at each other, and we decide to just bolt our way home. And at 4 years of age, just like Jonathan, I was a really good tag player and hide and seek player. So I found the best hiding spot that I could in my house. My poor mom, being a new immigrant in this country, had no idea of how to handle this Tom Selleck. And so when she did find me after 20 to 30 minutes, she took Tom Selleck's anger and magnum PI'd it on me. And I don't know how much time passed after that, but pretty soon I found myself in that shed. I smelled the gasoline. I can still remember the darkness, the fear, and just the level of not knowing what was going to happen to me next. And I pleaded. I said, "Mom, please let me out, let me out, let me out." And I made a statement which really changed the course of my life from that point onwards. I told my mom, "I am going to be a good kid." And that broke me. You know, it's a funny thing. When we grow up, we're encouraged to stand up, talk, and be silly. But at some point, that narrative changes, where it shifts to sit down, shut up, and behave. And so I became the good kid. I didn't have a really bad crew that I hung out with. I didn't have bad influences or any of that. I actually did really well in school. I had the best opportunity, and my parents were really good people. Well respected in the community. They treated me well. I never had to hear from them again. I became the good brother. I became the good son. I became the good student, and did all the things that were required of me. But just like that shed, I put myself in a self-contained prison of not showing up as who I really was and showing up as this imposter. Really the person who you wanted me to be rather than who I really was. And so I went through my school, and for a couple of years, I thought, okay, maybe I can break this trend. And I remember one instance, we went to Atlantic City as a family. We had some family visiting. And on the boardwalk, that same cousin, I don't know, I always get in trouble with him, that same cousin, and one of my other cousins, we just started running on the boardwalk, away from our family, away from all the people, and we just started running in a direction. And pretty soon, one of my older cousins starts chasing us, and he comes, and he's obviously faster, so he catches up to us, and he looks at all three of us, but he gives me the smack. And so that was my second experience of realizing, okay, I'm stepping out of my good kid zone. I need to become a good kid again. And so for so many years, I would live my life, even if it was the most remote thing that could rile up my parents or rile up anybody else, I would not mention it. There were days I'd come home from school, I'd ride my bike, but on the way back, I'd be walking it home. Because some of the other kids would take the air out of my tires. Or I'd be in my neighborhood, and the kids would call me Gandhi. And now Mahatma Gandhi is a great person, but I didn't feel like that person who freed India from British rule, but I felt like this Mahatma Gandhi, or the Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who got kicked off the train for being brown in South Africa. And so I would not mention any of this to my parents. As I got older, I didn't even go to my senior prom because, first of all, that was a party. Second of all, they had girls there. And thought that if I even remotely decided to go here, I would not be the good kid anymore and I'd be causing trouble. And it lasted well. I was able to put on this nice show for quite a while until I went to college. where I was wonderfully introduced to the world of alcohol, drugs, gambling, and most important, girls. And what this allowed me to do is to let go of that little piece. But it was in a very uncontrolled way. I did all those things. I remember gambling to the wee night hours with my friends, getting up on bars and dancing with whoever was there and just having a good time. But it wasn't me. It still wasn't me. And I became even more confused. I asked myself, who am I? Who is this person? I'm not this good kid, I know that for sure. But I'm not this person either who is under the influences of a variety of things, shows up in some form. So who the heck am I? And I went through my whole phase. I worked on Wall Street for a little bit. I was able to go volunteer in India for some time. I worked in front of audiences and started teaching yoga and other things. And I still didn't find myself. And I was tired of it. And one fortunate day, I got to meet my now wife, Shakti. And it was that relationship that really brought a huge reflection in front of me as to, first of all, who I'm not, calling me out on things that I pretended to be, and recognizing, all right, there is something more here. So that started a bit of a introspection, because up until that point, for 30 years of my life, I kept living a life of impressing and trying to impress and being the best people pleaser on this planet. I guarantee you, if you made a list, I'd be number one on that list. Because I was so good at meeting where you are, and letting you know and letting you hear what you want to hear. You wouldn't even realize it that I was people-pleasing. It was that I would realize how effective that was for me. But I recognized that wasn't really me. And so it took a moment of self-introspection. And what was the things that, I tried to follow the breadcrumbs. What were the things that are true to me, that no matter what situation, no matter how much under the influence I am, what were the things that started to resonate with me? The things that I knew that I could do without even having to try. And being a kid, that 4-year-old, the power of play. Following my excitement. And also recognizing that connecting, everybody here is a reflection of me. In some way or form, everything that you said today, whoever came up here, there is some element which I could see myself in you. And Raul shared that earlier, is that, after he gives a talk, people can say, hey, he mentioned the same exact thing that I'm trying to convey here, is that I see myself in you, and that's the thing. When I work with clients, I don't see them broken. And when I give that gift to people, I reinforce in myself that I'm not broken. Every time, every single person that I meet, there was a gift. Like I said, follow the breadcrumbs. One of the breadcrumbs is that whenever I met somebody, they would be, within 2 minutes, maximum 5 minutes, they'd share their whole life story with me. And so I recognized, what was I doing? And that was the key, is seeing each individual as whole and complete. And no matter what you've gone through, a lot of painful things. I mean, I can't relate personally to the things that you've gone through and the stories that we've heard today. Like I said, I was with the good crowd. I did the things that were expected of me. But not seeing you as this broken person is the gift that I want to share with all of you, is that no matter what, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. Like I said, what your qualifications are. But you are worthy just by being you. And even yesterday, last night, and Shakti can attest to this, is that last night this talk was not fully baked. And I was sitting there thinking, all right, what am I going to say here? How am I going to, deliver this? My son comes up to me, my 8-year-old, and he just starts playing with me. And I got up and I realized I came to life in that moment because I was not thinking about how broken I was or how unprepared I was or whatever. I was, as Patty mentioned, I was that daredevil. I was the one that, waited to the last moment to figure out what did I need to do. And he saw me and started playing with me. He saw me for who I was, and that was the key. So what I want to leave you with is you've gone through stuff. And nothing is going to take that away from you. But what you do where you are now and how you live your life now, and seeing yourself first and foremost as whole, as worthy, as complete, really is your liberation. So I honor you and saying thank you, and just seeing the wholeness, completeness, and the love that you all carry within you and your hearts.